In Christianity, the appearance of halos in religious art, particularly ancient and early medieval sacred art, is commonplace and familiar. Halos, in their various shapes and forms, are an artistic technique intended to depict a glow or radiance emanating from the personage being portrayed, highlighting them as distinct from and even above the average mortal. Holy reveal and political prop. The use of the halo in ancient Roman art. While most often known by the term halo, these symbolic features in religious art are also commonly referred to as nimbi, glorioles, or if the light radiates from the entire person being depicted, aureoles. Often drawn as a circle or disc encompassing the head of a deceased person being represented, if the individual being painted was still alive, a square nimbus was traditionally used instead. Though Jesus has commonly been painted with the customary circular halo, depictions of him with a gloriole that incorporates a cross, symbolic of his passion, or three bands representative of the Holy Trinity, are also common. A triangular halo is typically reserved for God the Father, and Florentine artists often painted nimbi in the form of a solid, typically gold disc attached to or floating just above the back of the head of the holy person being depicted. While many assume that the halo in art is largely a Christian symbol, the use of halos predates Christianity's employment by about 1,000 years. Indeed, Christians didn't use the halo in art until around the 5th century AD, while other traditions, such as Roman Mithraism, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism, incorporated halos in their art as early as the 5th century BCE. Generally speaking, the halo in religious art symbolized spiritual power as opposed to temporal power. Thus, Jesus, as King of the Jews, is commonly depicted with a halo, highlighting not only his holiness and divinity, but also the doctrine that Jesus' kingdom was not of this world. A similar idea is intended when religious figures such as Buddha Maitreya, Zarathustra, or various Shinto deities are depicted with halos. The nimbus is designed to imply that these great religious figures lived lives of holiness, were divinely commissioned and sent, or had achieved an enlightened state. But what do halos mean in non-religious art? And why do some Roman art pieces depict emperors with halos? To some degree, the Bible answers this question. The book of 1 Kings informs us that Nathan the prophet anointed Solomon king of Israel. Implied in this act was that Solomon had a divine dictate. He was called of God, had God's support, and even had a measure of power from the divine as he led God's covenant people. So how does this relate to non-religious art and political leaders in ancient Rome? Well, in Roman Mithraism, the halo is often associated with the sun god and thus represents the divinity of the being depicted. Roman emperors often had halos incorporated as part of their portraits, basically as a form of propaganda, implying to their subjects that as emperor, they had a divine commission. They enjoyed a wisdom beyond that of mere mortals, that they were demigods, and even that they had been deified and were worthy of their subjects' worship, reverence, and honor. During the 5th century AD, the halos of Roman emperors were often in the form of a crown of rays. Because of its pagan connections, early Christian artists avoided this form of the halo in their depictions of Jesus, the saints, or even Christian emperors, though over time, that form of nimbi did find its way into various Christian pieces of art. As with strictly religious art, ancient Roman political art was also heavily laden with religious symbols, designed to teach the emperor's subjects and indoctrinate them so that they would obey the emperor in the same way that a religious person would obey their god.